4 years ago, I quit my corporate 9-to-5 job to try making a living on my own. I had no business plan, no previous experience, and honestly, no clue what I was doing at all. So here's the 25 things I wish I knew before I started. When I first started freelancing, I met so many extremely successful business owners and honestly started to feel like I wasn't cut out for it. But over time, I started to notice that most of the super successful business owners that I knew weren't geniuses. I'm not saying they were dumb, but they weren't extremely smart. They didn't have something special that I didn't have. They just had consistently took action without ever giving up. So from that, I learned I just had to keep moving forward, consistently taking steps towards the direction I wanted to go in, and being willing to pivot and change direction as I learned more information. Social media drills into us that if we read one more article, listen to one more podcast, ask ChatGPT one more question, we will finally have all the knowledge we need to be successful. But the reality is, when I first started, I knew absolutely nothing. And because I quit my job so abruptly, I decided to just dive in without doing any extensive research beforehand. Instead, I just learned as I went, and now looking back, I know that it's so much easier to take action when you don't actually have all the information. Now that I actually have the information, I'm more paralyzed than I ever was before. I was more confident and overthought way less when I didn't have all the knowledge. When you don't know much, you don't really realize how much you don't know. The more you know, the more insecurity you have about the fact that you don't know everything. When you work for yourself, if you're in the US, you will quickly realize how nice it is to have the benefit of health insurance from a corporate job. Over the past 4 years, I've had times where I'm able to afford insurance and times when I'm not able to afford it. So I've seen firsthand the price differences between paying a deductible for a service and paying out of pocket the self-pay price. And honestly, there's not always a huge difference. Learn how to shop around for prices. I've navigated treatment of a pituitary tumor, 2 different ER visits, and also the diagnosis and treatment of POTS, all while without having insurance. Talk to billing, ask for discounts, and apply for any aid that they offer. Long story short, don't let insurance hold you back from quitting your job. And most importantly, if you're still young and don't have kids, take the risk now while things are much easier. Since I didn't have experience in the field that I was freelancing, I thought my degree was the only thing I had going for me. Even more, I thought I needed to go get certifications so I could prove my skills and actually gain clients as a freelancer. But the more I spoke with potential clients, the more I realized that most of them also are corporate escapees or even dropped out of college or never went. None of them care about my degree. They care about the connection and what I'm able to bring to the table on an emotional level, even more so. A corporate job means consistent income. Working for yourself does not. I've had months where I make almost 10K and I've had months where I only made 1K. But throughout all that, I was spending like I was making an 8K a month salary. Living below your means is always important, but even more so when you're working for yourself. When you're first starting out, you're gonna be willing and want to work with any client that will give you the time of day. But sometimes certain clients can literally drain all of your time and energy, which leads to taking that time and energy away from things that are actually aligned with your goals. So be stingy with your time and energy. Cut people out of your circle that drain you. Don't work with clients that are taking advantage. And always remember that some people are literally just thinking of themselves and not considering you at all. Every time I was at what felt like a peak in my success, something bad would happen in my life. I would get sick, our car would break down, I'd get in an argument with friends or family. I started to realize that there were things that actually subconsciously really scared me about having success or becoming successful. So in turn, again, subconsciously, I would end up self-sabotaging to try to protect myself from it. So start to pay attention to the ways you self-sabotage and look out for the signs of them beforehand. Most importantly, read this book. Actually, it's right here. You can't see it, but it's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It is an amazing book that goes into this in much more detail. When I first quit my job to start my business, I was so terrified. So I just kept telling myself I had to get over this one initial hurdle and then life would be more calm and chill. But the reality was that starting over never really ended. I'm constantly pushing myself outside of my comfort zone again and again and again. And looking back, I realized that that is literally the thing that has continued to help my growth. So be prepared to continuously push yourself out of your comfort zone on honestly a daily basis. But instead of looking at it as a bad thing or a draining thing, you'll start to actually learn to enjoy being just outside the bound of your comfort zone, not like way out there, just like slightly outside of it, as you continuously pivot and start over again and again and again. I always heard that you need to take risks to be successful, but then on the flip side, I would hear that you need to be slow and steady and don't do anything rash if you want to be successful. And throughout the past 4 years, I've actually found that both are true at the same time. By taking bigger risks, I've had more success, but also more failure. But really, it's just about balancing the periods of risk with the periods of sustainable, comfortable action. If you're constantly in the risk zone, you're never gonna have the time to actually be consistent with your actions. But if you're constantly in that safe, consistent action zone, things might never change for you. With all the advertisements surrounding us on literally a daily basis, it's easy to start thinking that you need to have a coach or pay for an expensive course to actually gain success. I bought one course since I quit my corporate job, and while the info inside of it was great, I honestly didn't really use it. But what I did get out of it was the accountability and the community and connections that came with it. So don't wait until you have the money to buy a course to start. If you really want to invest in a course, do it, but wait until you actually have the money from whatever you're trying to build to reinvest back into it. And in the meantime, what you should do instead, actually just wait because I'll talk about that in truth number 24. Quitting my job was the most life-changing thing for me, but to the people around me, it honestly wasn't that big of a deal. Others aren't necessarily gonna understand the mental and emotional shift that you go through when you leave corporate or quit your typical job, unless they've gone through it themselves, of course. And some people will go as far as to even talk about it like it's a cute phase that you're in that you're going to outgrow, or even try to convince you to reapply by sending you a million different job listings saying, here's a good job for you, why don't you apply to this one? But the reality is that none of their opinions matter at all. And honestly, they call it the corporate Kool-Aid for a reason. So write out your why very clearly before you quit your job so you have something to look back on and remind yourself why you're going through all this in the first place anytime you start to doubt yourself. All these success stories I see in social media make it seem like if you just have your one viral moment, your big break, then suddenly you'll become rich. But I've had two big moments and I'm still not rich. I had my viral moment on YouTube with my 75 hard video that has over 300,000 views now. And I also went live on CNN for an interview talking about quiet quitting, but neither of those made me rich. While they did bring some growth to my social media accounts and to my business, the truth is that the consistency that comes after those periods of growth is what is really important. And that applies to anything: social media accounts, your business, your retirement account. And unfortunately, thinking back to one of the earlier truths, I ended up self-sabotaging during both of those big breaks and not actually capitalizing on the opportunities because I didn't have the system set up to have consistency afterwards. Social media isn't about getting rich quick. And honestly, you don't even need to go viral or get huge to get something from it. I posted my first YouTube video over 8 years ago now. And while it definitely hasn't made me rich and most definitely has not been quick, it's brought me so many other things I never expected. So post content on social media because you want to, whether it's to connect with others, to help people, but don't do it just because you want to get rich quick. You'll end up quitting before you even see your first dollar. Focus on the connections and experiences you gain along the way and not the money and the numbers, because no one's gonna pay you because your dancing went viral on TikTok one time. What makes the money come is when you consistently show up for people and provide them value that's unique while still being somewhat predictable. Just like social media won't make you money right away, freelancing will also not make you money right away. And if you expect that, you're just gonna end up unhappy. As AI continues to expand, more and more of my clients are looking for genuine connection and support. They're focusing more on who and not how. So don't bother cold emailing 1,000 people to try to get a client. Grow your network slowly, consistently, and genuinely, and the money will come your way. We are constantly sold another quick fix to grow our business. Buy this tool to make thousands. Use this email template to get 10 new clients tomorrow. But the reality is nobody can guarantee your success. That one course I did buy that I talked about earlier, I never made a penny from. But when I began to pivot and actually learn what works for me and my business, that's when the money came in. I've had huge referrals come in years after I actually worked with the initial person that referred me. Consistently being there for my past, my current, and potential future clients in a genuine way has grown my business more than any little quick fix I can buy off of Instagram ever will. I used to think my success would be consistent. Like once I made it, it would stay the same forever. But it's honestly not linear at all. So after some frustrating days in my business, I started to learn to track by seasons and not by days or even weeks or months. And some seasons are for planting, for really digging into what I'm doing and starting to grow those seeds, while other seasons are for harvesting and actually reaping the benefit of all the effort and time I've been putting in for the past few months. So don't judge your entire journey and get all discouraged over one slow season. Because again, momentum is about consistency, so just stay consistent. I wanted people close to me to get it, to truly understand, to support all the risks, the vision, the long nights, but they didn't, not always at least. Over time, I started realizing that I was asking people to believe in in something they'd never experienced themselves. So let the people around you love you in the way that they can love and support you. And go find someone a few steps ahead of you that can mentor you and can truly understand where you're at in your journey. In the beginning, I said yes to basically everything. Collabs, interviews, quick questions, free chats, thinking it would all come back around in the future to benefit me. But it didn't, not always. And some people took way more than they gave. But I've learned that I can be generous without being available to absolutely everyone. And boundaries are not making me mean or not helpful. It's honestly what's making me sustainable and able to actually help people in the future. So learn to read the room when someone reaches out to you and truly try to gauge what they're actually trying to get out of the interaction. If it seems like they're just in it for themselves and not actually looking to genuinely connect, then it might be worth just saying no thanks. I kept offering what I knew would help people, and I tried to sell them what I believed to be the solution. But over time, I started to learn that people don't buy from logic, they actually just buy from emotion. And most importantly, they buy from what they actually want and desire. So now on sales calls or discovery calls, I speak to what they want, not what I know they need. But then once we start to work together, I deliver what I know that they need. I thought I had to say the right words in the right order to actually land clients. So I over-rehearsed, planned out a million questions and points I was gonna say, and honestly ended up not connecting with them at all. I've now learned that the best clients that I've ever worked with came from real conversations and connection. So stop worrying about trying to sound impressive, really just go into it being curious and asking them about what they're going through. And then truly listen to what they respond. That is what makes people wanna work with you. I wasted so much time trying to look legit and have everything together before I even knew what I was really doing. But one day I realized that I could sell through voice memos, quick Zoom calls without any presentation or preparation, and proposals sent through Google Docs, and had the realization that none of the special fancy setup was holding me back. I was holding me back. So start with what you have. Focus on clarity over complexity and tech and all this fancy setup. Your first version may not be perfect, but it will teach you everything you need to know. So when you do set up all your fancy tech and systems, it actually works for you for the long run. I thought I either had to figure it out all by myself or find a business partner to share the load. But over time, I built up community, mentors, peers that were in the same place as me, and even team members at times. And they made it possible for me to grow without fully giving up control. So you don't need a co-founder to feel supported and actually succeed. And honestly, from my experience and what I've seen, getting a co-founder actually makes things more difficult than easier. I thought I just needed to read one more book, watch one more YouTube video, talk to one more coach or mentor, and I would finally be clear on what I wanted my business to truly be. What would be the most sustainable, have the quickest growth, and mesh the best with my current skill set. But I kept burning out and never actually making progress on pushing forward until I started asking a different question. Does this actually feel aligned with me at a core level? So get clear on you first, really understanding yourself and what you want out of your life, and the path forward will become very obvious pretty quickly. I was extremely lonely in the early stages of building my business and quitting my corporate job because I didn't have any family that had a background in entrepreneurship, and all of my friends were still going the corporate route. But then I met someone who was in the same messy middle as me, and I started to feel way less alone. So find your in the trenches person. This does not need to be a mentor. They do not need to have all the answers. Just someone that you can open up to, share what you're going through, and support each other along the way. And it doesn't need to be this huge planned out mastermind. Just simple weekly check-ins where you just show up and chat with each other is all you need. And yes, I'm talking about you, Alice. That is who I do mine with. I said yes to too much out of guilt and then said no to too much out of fear, until I realized that alignment isn't about always saying yes or always saying no. It's about knowing when to say yes and when to say no. So anytime you're asked to do something for someone, anytime you're given an opportunity, check in with yourself and take a minute to think it over before you respond. Not every opportunity is for you, and not every no means that you're missing out. So it's been 4 years since I took the leap and quit my corporate job to work for myself, and now my husband is actually doing the same. We're currently in a 119-day challenge trying to convert my solo freelancer business into a full business that my husband can actually support with. So if you want to hear more about that, make sure to go watch this video next, where I'm talking about exactly what we're trying to do, how we're going to do it, and exactly why we're only giving ourselves 119 days. And we're actually already to day 100, so yeah, you better catch up on this one. But that's all I have for you in today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.